Here's a request that's going to be a lot of fun. This person says that she has struggled with color reflecting on water, and ask if I will do a tip on the vibrant sunset with red, pink, and orange reflecting on the water. We can do that with 4 colors. The best way to approach any subject, especially when there's lots and lots of color, the best way to approach it is to analyze before you ever start painting what you're looking at in the way of color and what role these colors are playing. Did you know that every color you use in a painting is playing a role? Color is not, we don't use color just to describe, but we use it to change other colors. We use it lots of different ways when we're making paintings. So I'm going to walk you through a process here, and I'm not going to do a painting of this. I'm going to do a little bit of painting for you to show you how the process works. My desire always for you is that I can show you how, and then you can take the how and use that with any subject you're looking at. So you might be looking at a different kind of sunset reflecting on a different kind of water. You might be looking at sunrise, different kind, and reflecting again on a different kind of water. So the idea is, why learn to do just one when you can do any of them? And that's what I would like to spend this quick tip showing you. So first of all, the concept, every color plays a role. Now let's look at what's going on in here. If this is the way the light behaves as the sun is going down, when there are lots of clouds in the sky, atmosphere is behaving in a certain way. The sun rays are turning those clouds pink, purple, various colors that you might see. And then all those clouds reflecting that color is causing everything else to turn that color too, in some way or another, or everything else to be influenced by that color, to change according to what that color is. And of course, when it's reflected in the water, we get a mirror image of it. So if you notice here, we have a white boat, but it doesn't look white because it has these colors reflecting in it. So when we're looking at a scene like that, we can ask ourselves one question. The first question: what is the one color that seems to be affecting all the other colors? And if we're looking at this, we might say, somebody would say pink, some would say orange. Well, look at it really, really closely, you don't really see oranges up here. You might say that pink, but what is pink but red and white? So go back to the color wheel. I always go back to the color wheel. And here on the color wheel, we don't see pink listed. We see red, and we see various kinds. We see red that moves towards orange, red-orange, and we see red that moves towards violet, and even orange has red in it. And so these colors, when mixed with white, give us pink. Now let me just show you that. Before I do another thing, I want to show you how that works. So if we have white, which is going to make the pink, and let's take alizarin crimson, which is a red. Now we have a number of reds. We could take any of them, but we'll just put some alizarin crimson, and we lighten that up, and we get what you might call pink. And that ends up, of course, we hear pink described. People call different colors pink. Sometimes the color might be leaning a little bit more towards violet. We'll call it pink. Or it might be leaning a little bit more towards red, and we call it pink. So you see, pink is not a color. Pink is a generic name that we use to identify a color mixture. It's not a hue. So we've got to go back to the hues in order to be able to make any color we want to. So we can begin there. We can say, this seems to be reflecting everywhere. So that then would be called the mother color. Now we have another quick tip where I identify mother color, which simply means the color that's influencing everything that's in front of what you're seeing. The color of the light or you can watch that quick tip. So first thing we then decide upon, when we identify that color as mother color, we decide upon which color we're going to use for that mother color. Now we could use actually any red that is on our palette. That is alizarin crimson. We have a lot of cadmium reds, we have naphtha red, there are a bunch of reds. You could begin with any one of those, but because we don't have time to go through all of those, I'm just going to begin with alizarin crimson. And the reason, this is, by the way, alizarin permanent. The reason I'm going to start with alizarin crimson is because I see alizarin crimson on the color wheel leans a little bit more towards red violet. And we see a lot of that in here when you can identify the hue. I see a lot of red violet in there. There's something else. A lot of time when people are doing sunsets, they'll reach for the most saturated colors on their palette. They're really saturated, like cadmium red light and cadmium orange, and this one is cadmium yellow deep, and even the really saturated yellows. That doesn't work. It doesn't work because those colors get slightly desaturated with the atmosphere. So we know that alizarin crimson is slightly desaturated. See, you learn these things about your tube colors. So we know alizarin crimson is a red violet, not a red violet, it leans towards red violet, and it's slightly desaturated. Now you could take any computer program that reads color and you could find that out for yourself. But anyway, all right, so I've got that right there. Now I can put a little bit of that on the back of my palette knife, and look at that. Look at how that hue blends with so much of what we're looking at there. There's a difference in value. To get the value a little darker, we simply add a little bit more of the darker color, which in this case would be alizarin crimson. So now we have the ability to make a darker value and a little bit richer in color, and we have the ability to make a lighter value of that just by adding more white to it, like here. And if you have watched my my color value line quick tips, you'll see how I do that when I set up a palette. All right, so this will get us started. Now, that's not the only color we see. So when I'm setting up colors, I like to begin with the mother color, or begin with the color that I see most of, and find that color. Which tube color do I have that can give me that when mixed either with a lighter or a white or a darker color, or mixed with other colors? And you learn, of course, you learn that by experience. But the next question I always ask, and here comes your second color. I want the ability to neutralize this color. Why? I'm seeing colors in here that are more neutral. They're leaning more towards the gray portion of the color wheel, which is the center. We don't see that on this color wheel. But when a complement is mixed with a color, it creates a neutral. So I know I want to be able to neutralize. Always when you're painting nature, you need that ability. So what I'll do here is I'll go across with the red velvet. I'll go across and I see that yellow-green gives me the ability to neutralize. So what tube color do I have that's yellow-green? Well, I have sap green. There are others, but I have sap green made by Daniel Smith. That's my sap green I trust for lots of reasons. So I'll just pull some sap green out, and I don't think it will take much, but I'll pull that out. Now let's see what effect that sap green will have on that on this red violet, or red leaning towards violet. So we'll call this yellow green now. Rather than sap green, I'm just going to call it yellow green. And first thing I want to do is just take some white and create a value that is similar to this value. So we'll do that and just get it this is what I call value adjusting. When you're getting when you have two colors that you're going to mix into each other and you don't want the value to change, you don't want it to get darker, then you can adjust the value of the darker colors, or both of them if you need it. If both of them come out of the tube darker, you can adjust the value of it And once you get it in the value range of the color you're mixing in with it, then it will mix without changing the value. That's really a neat thing to know. So that's my second color. It's the ability to neutralize, and I'll show you what that will do. So I'll just put a little bit, and it won't take much, a little bit of that sap green right into this red violet, and look what happens. You see it turning more and more neutral right there. Now, okay, it's turning neutral, but is that neutral the neutral I'm looking at? Now we'll find out. I can hold my palette. It's a little bit light, so let's adjust that value. Let's get the value. And see, this is the way you think about this stuff. When you compare the color, you're comparing the value. Now I'm comparing the hue, which is the red, violet, and the yellow, green. I'll be comparing the intensity or the saturation in just a moment, but also I'm comparing the value. So both of them change. When you are looking out in nature, you see variations of both of those. So I'll just put a little bit more, have that just a little bit darker, and make this a little bit darker. And now I've got two colors. I said I can do this whole scene with 4 colors. So we've got the 2 going here. Let's see what this does now. Put a little bit of this into the red violet mixture. And now it doesn't take much. When we say mixing complements, we don't mean 50-50. We mean put just as much, just as much of one complement and the other as it takes to turn it to the to the neutralization that you want that color to be, or saturation. Now if I put that, hold that up here, you see that gets very much closer. It's really closer to this color right here in terms of hue. Now you can see as we hold the palette knife up in here, see how it's very close to what we're seeing right there? But what we're seeing down here seems to be a little bit cooler, a little bit bluer. So that comes to the third color I always go for when I'm setting up a palette for color. I always go for next ability to, well, I'll go for the ability to warm and I go for the ability to cool. I may go for the ability to cool if that's what I need when I'm analyzing the color, or I may go for the ability to warm. So let's say we're going for the ability to cool. That means it leans a little bit more towards blue. And the easiest way to cool any color, any hue, is to add a little bit of blue into it, or a color that has blue in it. But let's just stick with the blue, and I'm going to use ultramarine blue here because it really is, no matter what anybody says, it's cool. We'll go into that in another discussion. We've been there before. All right, so that is certainly cooler than this, and you can see that. All right, now let's get that the same value as this mixture and add into that mixture right in here, and I want you to watch what happens. Yeah, just enough, not much, just enough. You have to control the amount of that in there. And what do we have? Okay, we have a little bit more of what we need right over there. Now into that cool, if I pull a little bit more of the warm of the alizarin mixture, you're going to see the variations that we see in the sky here. So you see now I do need to, there we go, the value changed again. So when the value changes, that means it's because I added more white, and so I'll add more of a darker value of all 3 of those, and a little bit more of the darker value of the green. Now I've got 3 colors going there, and we can see it going right up in here into that darker portion. All right, now what happens if we take this mixture and we pull more of the red? Let's get a mixture over here, just the red and white, about this value right here. Let's try first of all just more of the red into that value mixture. Let's see, that's okay. Now we're in that value range of what we're looking at right here. Let's pull just a little bit of this neutral mixture into it, and I think you'll see where we're going. There we go. Can you see how I did that? I'm just thinking about this very logically, and you see we're right in there. We're right in the ballpark of where we need to be for this color that we're looking at. It's the value, the value is right, the temperature is right, and the neutrality or the saturation is right. All right, so now we've got the 3 colors, but we still have one color we haven't addressed yet, and that is, oh, by the way, back up. now we know, because of what I've just done here, we have the ability to just go darker here to get that color that we saw there. We go lighter to get, and we add a little bit more red to get this right in there. You see all that, but we have this orange in here. What are we going to do about that? So we need, the next requirement for my palette is the ability to warm. So look what I've named thus far: mother color, complement, ability to cool, ability to warm. Those 4 requirements usually will give you all that you need, and if they don't, maybe you will only have to add 1 more color. Almost in any landscape that you have. I probably should be careful about how I say that, because yeah, there are always exceptions. So anyway, let's go. Now what do we need? Ability to warm. The warmest color on the palette is yellow. So I'll just reach for some yellow here. This is the Hansa Yellow Light, made by Utrecht. It's my favorite yellow. Now, you see how light that is. It's pretty much the same value range as this. What I want to do here, before I get into the neutralized mixture, what I want to do here is now get the same value of what the alizarin in white will give me. Want that value to be the same value as the yellow. Now see, that's a little dark. Alizarin is very, very strong color. It's called tinting strength. Requires more white to lighten it up than, say, ultramarine blue would. Okay, that is close. Maybe just a tiny bit more of the alizarin in there. All right, now, if I pull that mixture into the yellow, right in here, just like that, look what we've got. You see, we have what we need there to create that orange. Now we can see, by adding a little bit more of the alizarin and the yellow, we can see how we can get varying values of that orange that we see. Let's get the value right first. Okay, there's the value of this orange I'm seeing here. Add a little bit of the yellow to that. Mix it in. And so sometimes it's by trial and error, but that's it. Look at that, right on the nose of that color. And of course we see very little, just lots and lots of yellow right here. Very little yellow, and then we see that yellow going a little bit more towards yellow. Now they're towards orange, I meant. They're the 4 colors, all that you need to create this entire scene. Now I want to show you 2 skills that you will need for making what you see here happen. So we got the colors, but we see them blending one into the other. That's called gradation. If a color or hue is changing to another hue, that's called gradation of hue. We see that happening right here. If a value is changing gradually into another value, we call that gradation of value. If even a saturation, do we see that? Yes, we see that right here, where it's more saturated here than it is down here, but we see it's gradually blending. One degree of saturation is a stronger saturation, and as it blends downward, it gets to be a less saturated color. So you can blend, gradate in 3 different directions. So I just show you now. Blending is just a skill that you use with a brush, and let me show you what not to do for blending and how you can make blending work for you. So I'll just take this color right here, this hue, and I'm just going to do a value, sort of value gradation. Now, so what I'll do here, let's say start about right there. We need that color to go on, and so that it covers the canvas like this. But when you're first learning gradation, if this is new to you, when you're first learning gradation, you don't want that color too thick to begin with. Now later on, as you get control of your gradation, you will learn how to control the amount. You can do it thick color as well as thin color, but it's better to use it just where no medium, just paint in the brush, and holding the brush at about this angle to the canvas, and then just stroking it, one stroke on top of the other with a kind of crisscross motion. That's technique. And then that will help you lay the first color, and then you gradually work the next color into it. Now, I did a previous quick tip, not too much earlier than this one, where I showed you that. But when you're doing a scene like this, you gradate according to how this is moving. So if this is moving, maybe say a little bit more towards the more highly saturated color, and a little, let's keep that a little bit. So that's too dark for the gradation. What I just did there is too dark, so we want to keep that. There we go. Okay, I want to change the hue, and I want to change slight saturation. Now I've got the yellow into the red, orange, or the pink. You might call it pink. You can call it pink if you want to. Now just gradually pull it. Look, watch that. Gradually, and just let that fade out like that. And that way you can gradate one color into to the other, and you can get this effect that you see right here and here. Yeah, that's worth a practice. You don't have to make a painting to practice it. You can practice it on spare sheets of paper. Then the other thing that you need for a scene like that is to be able to recognize where contrasts are and to build those contrasts. So right here we have a value of contrast, darker here than it is there. All that means is you need to show the difference. So if we have that right here, if we have the darker, this is the darker, say this is the darker above, and then we're going to see the darker there, and then a little lighter, and then becomes darker below. Then what we would do there is we would create a value contrast. And it doesn't have to be, contrast doesn't mean extreme, it means just different. So we could say here, there we go, it's in the same color range. Now we have a contrast, and if we build a little bit more hue into that, we have now a contrast of value, and we could add then into that contrast of the value there, which would show the horizon. We can add into that then a gradation of hue, where we allow a darker hue just by blending the edges as we lay the color on, where you have a darker hue existing within a lighter value. So these are skills, the skill of contrast, the skill of gradation. You can check the previous quick tip for that. And the skill of reading color according to the color wheel, and then making decisions about roles of color. By role, I mean, let me emphasize that part. What role does each of those colors play in what we're going to do? The mother color is the role of the overall color, the overall hue, the light that's affecting everything. The role of, in this case, the mother color is violet, red that leads toward violet. The role of the next color is to complement, to neutralize, give us neutrals that are either slight or great wherever we need them, and that is the complementary color right here. And then we need the ability to warm and the ability to cool. The role of yellow here is to warm. It is also to change hue. So we're changing red to orange, that's changing hue. So it's serving two roles there. And then we have the role of blue. The role of blue is help to cool. And in some cases, it would help to neutralize the orange. So sometimes hues can play double roles. So if you practice that, first of all, get accustomed to using this as your guide. And so if you look, this is your guide. If you call something pink, you know, if you don't see it on this, then you know that you need to find what is the hue of that pink. And it will be somewhere in here. The hue will be. Identify the hue as your mother color, and then take yourself to the steps I've just guided you through here. You will absolutely surprise yourself at what you'll be able to interpret, and certainly you'll be able to do a brilliant sunset reflecting on water. Be sure to view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell, so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com, where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter. And that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.